Come on, stretch this out. That's a very small box we have going here. Why is this not working? Come on, help me. If you survive the first 17 seconds, guys. All right, we're going to talk about distance conceptually. We started out by drawing this triangle badly. This is ordered pair, what, -4, +1? Does that look right, guys? And +4, 2. And I'm trying to learn names. Kate said we could use Pythagorean theorem. If you are looking at your x values left to right, how far is it from -4 to +4? It's obviously not 0. Okay? It's 8 units across. If you are looking at your y values, you had a 1 here and a 2 here, so we went up and down 1 unit. So if we do Pythagorean theorem, we'll be able to find the distance here, which was supposed to be the hypotenuse of the triangle, if I could draw. All right, 64 and 1. Now, this is not 9, right? No one's going to say the square root of this is just 9. Because somewhere along the way, almost everybody at some point tells me this is true. Is that true? No. Okay. Why is it not true? Anybody have a guess? It has to do with order of operations, right? We would have to, that big square root thing means we would have to do the order of operations first inside here and then square root. The squared and the square root, if we didn't have the plus in the middle, if it said x squared, y squared, then this would be true if it was just multiplication. Okay. Backing up here. So this is the square root of what? 65. And I think later on it says round. What is this really close to that's a perfect square? Yeah, this is just a little bit over 8 because 8 squared is 64, right? Does anybody do it in the calculator? Is it like 6.1 or is it even that, 6.01? 8 point, what did I just say, 6? 8.06? So if we did 10th, it would be 8.1? All right. What we did was we took the distance across the x's and we squared it. And then we did up and down and we said the change in the y values and we squared it. And that gave us the distance. All right. The actual formula you may have learned looked like this. It was horrible. You have to write carefully so you can read it. And sometimes teachers do x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1, but it doesn't matter what order you subtract them in because you're going to square it anyway and blah, blah, blah. Does that look familiar? Do you understand what I'm talking about conceptually? If you just find the difference in the x's, the difference in the y's, do Pythagorean theorem. It will save you time and effort. Okay, so let's do this one in our head. How far from -4 or +4 to -8? Right? From -8 up to 0 is 8, and then keep going to +4. That's 12 units. And the y's from 3 to 6, that's just 3 units. So there's our distance. And it's not 15. We can't get rid of the square roots in the squared. We have 144 and 9, 153. Did I do that right? Normally, you could just leave it like that, and I don't really care. This is your notes, but it does say round to the nearest 10th. Rounding to the nearest 10th, this is going to be somewhere between what? Can you do in your head a little bit? What perfect squares are close? 12 is squared is 144, 13 squared 169, so it's somewhere in there. Anybody have a good decimal for me? Okay. Just an aside really fast. You have to take the SAT this year if you're a junior, not the ACT. The SAT, ready for this, has a calculator part and a no calculator part. Of each of those two parts, there is a multiple choice part and a non-multiple choice part. The non-multiple choice part is gridded response, where you have to bubble your answer in. Would it be easy to get a question like that wrong if you rounded wrong? Yes, they don't give partial credit for 12.3. If it says round to the nearest tenth and bubble your response, okay? So we got to be careful. All right. What about this one? -2 to -3 is only 1 unit away, right? Picture a number line. Does that make sense? I always have to think about the number line. 5 to 4, 1 unit apart. So this is grand square root of 2, 1.4 maybe? Approximately? All right, distance we're good, yes? Okay. Next one I have is midpoint. How do you find the middle of any two numbers? You got a bad grade, you got a good grade. How do you find the middle? Add together and divide by 2, also called just find the average or the mean, right? So my shortcut here is average the x's and average the y's. And this is the only one that's a point, so you do get two answers, right? You get an ordered pair. So if I had 1, 2 here, and over here I had, is that 5 or 6? -5, -2 maybe? Okay, how would I find the midpoint? Add these guys. What's -5 and 1? -4, but I gotta do half that, so it's -2. And then the y's add up to a whopping 0. 0 divided by 2 is, it's 0. It's not undefined, yep. So -2, 0 is right here. Does that look like the middle? Okay. So if you wanted a fancy formula, does anybody know what it looks like? Good job. Okay. Midpoint easy? Can do that one? When you divide by 2, will you ever get an irrational number? Does anybody know what I mean by that? When you divide by 2, what's the only two things that can come out? Either equally or with a 0.5. Given that the top number was an integer, when you divide by 2, it's either going to come out nice or it's going to be a 0.5, right? Which is an exact answer. So I don't care if you round, or you don't need to round. I don't care if you give me a decimal or a fraction here. You can leave them as improper fractions. I don't care. You do these two real quick? I'll show work on this one just to humor you, right? Now, I would not be happy if you left that answer. I would be okay if you gave me that answer or 1.5 -2. Did I make a mistake anywhere, guys? Everybody's agreeing with me? Anybody's brain has fallen out of their head yet because it's 3:15? All right, easy one, slope. Give me a definition or 2 or 3 of slope. I knew somebody's going to say that. Is that a definition of slope? Everybody always thinks of it as definition of slope. If you're given an equation, can you pick out the slope really easy on that equation? Absolutely. But what if I give you two ordered pairs, like -1, 2, and I don't know, is that 5, -1 maybe? I'm guessing. Yes, there's a great definition. We could do rise over run. If I was teaching this in directed studies right now, I'd tell them count how many it went up and how many it went over, right? Okay, rise over run. If you have graph paper and it's given to you on the graph paper on an SAT question, I'd probably just count because I wouldn't bother to find the ordered pairs, right? But if you're given the ordered pairs, how do you find it? What is rise? It's the change in y, and the run is change in x. Okay, so that's my favorite definition of slope. But what do you have to do to find a change between two numbers? Subtract. Does it matter if you do x2 minus x1 or y2 minus y1 or y1 minus y2? As long as you do the same thing for the x's as you did for the y's, right? You can't go one way on the x's and one on the y's because that won't work. In other words, I can go up and to the left or I can go down and to the right and it will give me the same slope. So what about my crazy example here? I went up 1, 2, 3 and over but left, right? If I went up, I had to go to the left, so negative 1/2. Does that work if I go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2? It does, right? Giving me this. All right, so let's do it with some numbers that they gave us. Honestly, I usually do these by subtracting, but you can do it in your head if you want. How far from 13 to 8? Would be down 5, right? And remember to put the y on the top. That's what everybody gets wrong here, is they do the slope upside down, and that's trouble. If you went from negative 16 on your number line to negative 4, you actually went up 12 or positive 12 to the right. If you did this 13 minus 8 over negative 16 minus negative 4, you'd have 5 and negative 12. If you did it the other way, what happens? It's not the same thing, really. It is the same thing, but it's not, because you get negative 5 and positive 12. Is that equivalent, though? Yeah. One way the top will be negative, one way the bottom. Okay? All right, what's the last one over here? 11 to 17 is... You want to do positive or negative 6? Okay. If we did 11 minus 17, we get negative 6. If we did 1 minus 15, we'd get negative 14. Two negatives will still make it a positive 3/7. All right, we're rocking, yes? Easy peasy stuff. Okay. Quick review of graphing. Where does this one start? It doesn't, Miss Hofbauer. It has infinite points, goes on forever in both directions. Doesn't start anywhere. But where do we start drawing it? The origin, usually, because we can throw a +0 on the back, and we all love slope-intercept form. Then it does what? Up 4 over 1, or down 4 and to the left 1? I'm going to cheat, because you already saw how badly I draw these, okay? How's that? Number 11, what would someone get wrong? Can you give me a common mistake someone might make on this? Miranda? Okay, it's negative slope, so it should be going something like this, right? Somebody might do that in the wrong way. What else? The y-intercept is 3. Somebody's going to put it over here, right? Maybe not in Precalc, but definitely in Algebra 1. They start on the x instead of the y. The y-intercept is positive 3 up here. And then what? Which way do you want me to go? If I go down 3, then I'm going to do what? To the right 2? What's the other option? Up 3 and back 2. Okay, we're all good? All right, number 12. This is my favorite question. What kind of line is this? And you all say? Straight. Yes? Everybody loves to answer straight. Yes, they are. They're very straight. Okay. Horizontal, vertical. Not sure. I don't know if you ever had a teacher do this for you before. What does this say? All of the whats are 2. All the x's have a 2. The y's could be anything. Okay, over 2 up 0, over 2 down 40, over 2 up 19, or maybe not. Maybe it's closer. But all of them do what? They line up which direction? Vertically. This is how I read that to myself, because I had to memorize this at some point in my life too. I read that x equals 2 means it crosses the x at 2. It doesn't run the same direction as the x. Is that what messes you up? That's what messed me up when I was a student. X-axis goes this way, but yet an x equals line goes this way, right? Okay, slope? Undefined. All right, number 13. How many of you want to rearrange that in y equals form? Most of you? Can I teach you, show you a different way? You don't have to do it this way. But this is a question that I like to do with intercepts. I think to myself really quick, if x was 0, this would be gone, and I'd have 2y equals 6, which makes that 3, right? What if I find the y-intercept? So that was the y-intercept. The x-intercept. If I put in y equals 0, this will be gone, and it will just say x equals 6. So now 6, 0, and 0, 3, and I didn't have to rearrange anything. Why is that useful? Well, when I see a line like this, does 3 go into 4 and 4, or 3 go into 12 and 4 go into 12? So I just think if the x was 0, 12 divided by 4 is 3. If the y was 0, then it would be 3x equals 12, and I plot those points and I don't have to rearrange. Sometimes it will ask you to find the intercepts. That's what we just did, okay? This is a y-intercept when x equals 0 and an x-intercept when y equals 0. Did I say that right? All right, do you want me to show you how to rearrange it? If you had said 2y, x plus 2y equals 6, you'd subtract what? Maybe move the x over here and then divide by 2. Is that what we have? The line that starts at 3 goes down 1 and over 2? Okay. So what's going on 14? Horizontal line down at -3 with a slope of... Oh, undefined is a vertical line. This one has no rise, but it has run. So if I pick 2 points like here and here, I'd say it went up 0 but over 2, and that's 0. This is a 0 slope. Did you ever have a teacher show you the little skier dude? He says Z, sleepy, boring when the slope is going across, and he says, oh no, undefined when he falls off the vertical line. Yeah, that's what he would say. All right. Want to rearrange or do intercepts? Just practice intercepts one more time, even if I would probably rearrange. If x is 0, it says negative y equals -3, which means y is 3. If y is the 0, then it just says what? X equals -3. So -3, 0, and 0, 3. Is that a positive slope or a negative slope? Positive. If we had rearranged it, when we divided everything here by -1, we'd have y equals 3 plus x, or +3 intercept up 1 over 1. Yes? All right. Don't fall asleep. I have 3 minutes. I want to show you something. You do not have this question on worksheet 3, okay? The first 2 worksheets assigned are worksheets 3 and 4. You can do all of worksheet 3 right now, and you can at least do the front side of worksheet 4 as well. Worksheet 3 starts out with some horrible equations like this, I think, on worksheet 3A. It says up in the corner, in the little handwritten numbers, you see 3A up there? Okay. I just want to talk about a question like this. There's 2 things I don't want you to do. I don't want you to change them to decimals, but I don't want you to work with them as fractions. I want you to get rid of the fractions right away. Remember how to do that? Least common denominator. This is a horrible question, because I see a 40 and 8 and a 5, and I go, oh, they all go divisible by 40, and no. What does that 7 make the least common denominator? Got a guess? Well, do 5 and 8 go into 40? So we can ignore them. So 7 and 40 would have what? Common denominator would be 7 times 40 or 280. I don't think there's anything smaller that it goes into. You could do multiples of 40, but I don't think you're going to get anywhere shorter. So if I were doing this on my calculator, somebody's going to type for me because you don't even have this question. So just punch for me 280 times 189 divided by 40. Or just 7 times 189 because this goes in here 7 times. Times 189 divided by 40. Equals, okay, over here, I can do this one in my head, because 7 goes into 280 40 times 2 is 80. What am I going to forget, though? Don't lose the n. All right, I don't know this one. 17 times 280 divided by 8, or 17 divided by 8 times 280. And then 6 times 280 divided by 5? 330? 336. That one has an n. Now, is that solvable easily? Yeah. It isn't necessarily going to come out nice, but you could leave it an improper fraction, okay? If it doesn't come out nice. One more thing before the bell rings here. If you have one like this, distribute before you do the multiplying through. So you multiply these two and you get some gobbledygook over 10. And then you do these two and these two, you get some gobbledygook over 40. Minus 29 over 8x equals this. And what will the common denominator be then? That's a 40. Common denominator? 10, 40, 8, and 40. 80 would work. 40 would work, right? Then multiply through by 40, and you'll get rid of all those denominators. I can do a couple more of those tomorrow if I need to, but you can now work on worksheet 3, 4. I don't care if you don't work on any of it. When is it due? Friday. Friday. Okay? But if you want to get ahead, 3 you can do all of, 4 you can do the front side. Most of you can probably do the back side as well. So I'll review.